And we are back for another week. Thanks for joining us again. For those of you that have not joined us before, I am Clay Norman, also known as Pliglet number 33, and I'm joined here with my mom, Jenny Thompson, who is here to tell you a little bit more about her life and her background.
Good morning or afternoon, maybe, because we're a little late today.
Yeah, this time we're doing it in the afternoon.
Yeah, this time we're doing it in the afternoon, a little bit different.
You have a pretty good week?
I did. It was really fun. I had a really enjoyable week. I spent it with my one of my daughters and one of your sisters, and it was a blast. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Good deal. Good deal. We did get a quick question off of our last topic, which we were talking about how you guys all came to the Mapleton home.
Uh-huh.
People were asking how many kids were there at this point, which I think is a great question. And it's great to dive a little bit more into that family dynamic with all you guys kind of being a little bit closer in community.
Let's see. I believe at that point there was 23 kids when we moved into Mapleton.
Okay. And wife number one and wife number five had not moved in right away. It was just you, wife number two and three, right?
Right. Wife number two moved in first, and then wife number three moved in, and they were working on building some extra rooms so that there was bedrooms in that home so that I could move in.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
then I moved in after that.
Okay. And how would you describe how the family dynamic was between you guys all? Like, how did you guys all get together? What was it like at that point?
So at that point, we got together quite a bit. We ended up having like firesides at the home with a lot of different people from the religious community. We were kind of like, I don't know, we had a lot of people that came to our home because we all got along great and they liked our family. And so they came to firesides, what you'd call them. And that's when a small group of people would get together and talk about the religion and the gospel and what they believed. And came to our home and we would serve a refreshment after. It was just a small gathering with different kinds of people in the group, and different people were invited at different times. And it was quite fun. We had family lunches together for Sundays. So we were getting together a lot more as the five of us and enjoying each other's company and getting to know each other a little bit better. So that's kind of how that dynamic worked. We became quite a social hub for a lot of people would just stop in from the religious group and visit. So
Okay. Were your kids going to public school, private school? Were they homeschools?
or the first wife's kids were going to a private school. She was teaching there. And the other kids we were looking at putting into a public school for a little bit, just because of where we lived. It was a little bit harder to get them to the private school at that point. So
Okay. So most kids are public school, just mom number one was teaching at a private school, and so her kids went there as well.
yeah, our kids went to the private school.
Okay. Did you say she was teaching there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Um, so did you guys go on vacations a lot? I know that we didn't take vacations a whole lot as kids, but did you guys take vacations a lot before I came into the picture?
We took trips. We went camping as a family, so we did that. We only did one real major trip as a family. That was a little bit of a different situation there because when we did those trips, I found out that I was pregnant. So we split them up in two family vacations. So wife number one, two, and three went to California to Disneyland with their kids.
Yeah.
And my they had invited one of our good friends, and his large family to go with them. And so they went on that vacation. And then me and wife number 5 went to Lake Powell on a vacation. I didn't go with the trip to California because I was pregnant and having some complications and I would be too close to being due. So I ended up going on the trip with wife number 5 to Lake Powell.
Gotcha.
So
Okay. What child number were you pregnant with?
I was pregnant with my 3rd when I went on that trip. Okay. So it was kind of a little bit of an emotional roller coaster for me to go on that vacation because I really loved going with the other girls and doing these trips. And so instead of doing something all together, we were being separated to go on different trips. I really wanted to go to Disneyland and have my kids experience that, but that wasn't in the cards at that point.
Yeah.
So what happened is I went to Lake Powell. We took some of the older kids with us to Lake Powell, and me and the 5th wife we're going to go on that trip. So we got all ready for our trip because it was quite a bit sooner than the one that was going to Disneyland was later, and I would have been further along.
Gotcha.
So we went shopping for that trip to get ready for it. And that was really a little bit of a challenge for me to go on that trip with wife number 5, because we didn't have we were still building relationship. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have a close relationship with her. It wasn't that we were enemies. It was just that our relationship hadn't grown, to where I knew who she was and she knew who I was. And I had a much closer relationship with the other girls. Mm-hmm. So we went shopping. She had the money to go shopping. And when we went shopping, I didn't feel like I had choices, felt like that she made the choices through the store and everything that we did for this trip. It felt like for me that she was in charge of this trip, and it was really her trip, and I was going on this trip with her. And normally when we did a trip, it was all of us deciding the food together and what we were going to have, and it was more of a joint effort.
Yeah, it was more of a collaboration.
Huh?
It was more of a collaboration.
Right. And on this trip, it didn't feel like that. It felt more like it was her trip and she was making the decisions and I was just there.
Yeah.
So getting ready for that trip was a little bit challenging for me. So.
Gotcha. I feel like a lot of that also just comes from you weren't quite sure how to really take what you wanted out of the relationship and go get what you wanted out of the relationship at that point yet.
Well, I think it was a little bit of that, but I think in every relationship that you have, it grows together and there has to be respect and understanding with each other. And there has to be a little bit of willingness to give and take a little bit. And sometimes we get so caught up in protecting ourselves or protecting what we think is our right that we forget to consider where other people are at. And so in my own situation, I didn't feel like I had choices because I wasn't an assertive person to say, hey, this is my right. And I wasn't one that wanted to get involved in conflict. Nothing was ever worth it to me to get in a big argument or feel like I was going to cause one. So yes. I found myself backing away from anything that felt stressful in that situation.
Okay. You'd rather just go with the flow.
And I'm somewhat, it's not like I just, bend over backwards, but I did allow other people to have control, and I didn't take control of my own life because of that, or my own decisions. I didn't say, hey, I have a right for this. So if something was picked out, or if I said I wanted this and it was not, it wasn't agreed upon, and they didn't say, sure, put that in the cart, then I would just put it back and just say it's not worth taking with me. So I did pack a few of my own things that I would have for my kids, just because I didn't know how to handle the situation when it was felt so separate. Her and I felt so separate in packing for that trip. It wasn't the same as when the five of us decided to do something. It was the same money. It was the same, everybody had a say.
Yeah.
And in that situation, I didn't feel like I had a say.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. So what kind of things did you guys do on that vacation? What did you do on that vacation?
It was really fun, actually. When we got out, I hung with the older kids. I really enjoyed hanging with the teenagers and laughing and giggling with them. We went out on the boat, and it started to rain. His parents were there, so we really enjoyed that time together. I hung a lot with his mom and dad and visited with them. I found myself in a little bit of an awkward spot because I didn't know how to interact with the fifth wife. I felt like every time I tried to interact, that I was in the way, basically. And I'm sure a lot of that was my own perspective. At the same time, I didn't feel like that I was accepted, really, so it became kind of a challenge. So in my way of handling it, I just decided I don't need to hang really with my husband. I don't need to be there. And it wasn't hard for me to just say, go ahead and have that time, because I just kind of shut myself off to say, you guys can do whatever. And I enjoyed myself with the kids and the grandparents. It's not like I didn't have anything to do with my husband, because I did. It's just, if it felt awkward at all, I'd find something else to do. I just would go, when you go to Lake Powell, it's beautiful there, and there's we'd pull off on the boat and be on rocks and whatever. And so I would go with the kids and we would look for lizards. I really enjoyed the outside. I enjoyed all that stuff. So we did that. And the kids, we stopped in one place and threw the fishing poles in, and the kids caught little teeny tiny fish, and it was really fun. But yeah, it was just a blast. I enjoyed spending that time with the teenagers and getting to know them better, because I enjoyed that relationship with them.
Yeah. I mean, wife number 5, she was, I mean, you guys didn't have that great of a relationship yet.
Right.
But she was coming around more often, it sounds like, to the Mapleton house, coming over for more Sunday dinners, more get-togethers, and becoming more involved in the family at that point, though.
Yes, she was becoming much more involved. And so when we got back from that trip, it was getting back with the family. I was very glad to be home. I enjoyed getting together with the other girls. We showed the pictures and enjoyed that time together. And then when they went on their trip to California, then that was really hard. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be that hard for them to go on that trip for me, but I was quite further along. And I don't know, they all got ready to go, and I cried.
Well, I mean,
I
wanted
wanted to go with
Disneyland,
them.
and you wanted to bring your kids to Disneyland.
Yeah.
And
And
you also
so,
had a different dynamic relationship with the other wives as well. And so it was just, I can understand you feel like you're missing out and you're missing them.
yeah. And watching them pack up the motorhome and getting ready to go, I stayed brave. I didn't cry when they were leaving, but I wanted to. And so, and I was going to be home alone. So they got all packed up and left on their trip, and I ended up having some of my own family, of my mom's kids over to have dinner and enjoyed their company. That was really nice to have them over. But at the same time, I wanted my kids to go experience that. And then when they finally got home, that was really challenging for me because they started showing the pictures and I was thinking about what my kids got left out of. And I wanted that for my kids. At the same time, I understood why I couldn't go on that trip. I understood that it was the, situation of being pregnant and not being able to go out and do that. So, and
I
I
mean,
was
you
in
only
a,
had just the two kids. Why not just bring them to Disneyland and leave you?
mostly it was because I had some complications with my pregnancies that they felt like it was unsafe for me to be
No, I
in
meant,
a
why
vehicle
didn't
that
they
long.
take the other kids and just leave you behind? Was it because?
I could not have let my kids go. I
Gotcha.
couldn't have been it. No, I couldn't have been away from my kids that long. It just wouldn't have happened. I couldn't have done that. No way. I mean, it's not that I didn't trust the other wives.
You just
I
couldn't.
missed my kids. There's no way I could have let them go.
Yeah,
That
you
would
just.
have really broke me.
I get that.
So,
It sounds like there was a lot of growth happening at this point, especially on that vacation and around that vacation time of for you in learning to, I guess, not learning to, but bonding and learning more about wife number five and just getting to know her and working with her personality versus the other wife's personality. It really came down to just like it was a completely different personality than the other wives, and there's a whole different way to bond with that, I guess. If you understand what I'm trying to get at.
yeah, I found that in every relationship, you have to put in your time for that relationship, but that relationship can only grow as far as that other person wants it to grow too, and only as fast as that other person wants it to grow. So you can't push a relationship. You have to let that grow slowly, and both of you have to put your time and effort into that relationship for it to grow. And we were just learning how to mesh our relationship together and where our boundaries were. We didn't know where each other's boundaries were. And we weren't given a little bit because we had trust issues. So if you have trust issues, you're not going to be able to build that relationship when you're not giving enough trust to the other person or able to communicate that. And I think that's where both of us were, is we weren't able to communicate with each other. We weren't trusting each other. We weren't giving each other the respect and the boundaries that we needed to learn how to do. That was still in the works of learning how to do that. And so some relationships will grow faster than others will grow slower. And you have to work on each relationship as separate units. And that's what we were learning to do. So every one of my relationships with each one of the girls grew differently. And there was certain areas where I was stronger with one relationship than another. And so that's kind of how that works to build relationships, and taking 100% responsibility for my actions in a relationship is what I was learning to do in order to build each relationship. So I can't blame her for the relationship because she has her part in every relationship and I have my part in every relationship. And together we grow whatever relationship turns out to be.
Yeah. I think we're gonna keep it short this week, but as always, I love and appreciate you being so vulnerable and open with us all. It's amazing and incredible, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people that get a lot out of this unique and interesting family and lifestyle.
Well, I really love and appreciate my family and love the dynamic in which I live in. And I hope that in some way I can help other people to build their relationships. So,
Well, join us next week, everyone. We appreciate you. We love you. Subscribe, follow, leave a comment, like. Thanks.
all right. I'll talk to you next week.
Bye, Mama.
This week was hard for me. I don't know why. It was just hard.
Well, it's because there's a lot that, I mean, there's a lot that happened in your guys' life in just like a short period of time that we're gonna cover here soon. So you don't want to leave stuff out, but you also don't want to jump back and forth.
Yeah.